welcome former Interpol ambassador and strategy and security expert, Mr. Andy Mashaile, who will talk to us about the collaborative efforts really that were necessary for us to see the arrest of Thabo Bester in Arusha and Tanzania. Dr. Mashaile, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time on the agenda.
Good morning to you and to your viewers, Naledi.
Well, talk to me about the relationships that South Africa has. I mean, at this point, now that we know that an arrest has been made of Thabo Bester and his accomplices in Arusha, we know that this took collaborative efforts between Interpol SA, Interpol Tanzania, but also local authorities. Just how many hands were in the pot here?
This would start with intelligence that would be gathered and that would be shared with the police, that would go to Interpol head office in Pretoria or the National Central Bureau, who in turn will engage with their counterparts at Tanzania National Central Bureau through the local policing authorities or law enforcement agencies, and leading to the arrest of the fugitives. And I must congratulate all law enforcement agencies in the two countries. Let me also take this moment to thank all who have been watching and sharing information with local enforcement authorities. Let me also thank Interpol, Pretoria National Central, the Central National Bureau, as well as the Central Bureau in Tanzania.
I think there's something to be said about the relationships between the bureaus in Tanzania and those law enforcement authorities here in South Africa and some of the international organizations like Interpol that you talk about, Mr. Mashaile. Although, while we talk about this was somewhat of a successful effort in that we found Thabo Bester, there's still a concern that he was able to make it all the way to Tanzania. So obviously there's seemingly a shortfall where our borders are sitting.
This is a very well-organized transnational crime in that the guy ran away or paid some officials as public as it has been put in the public domain. Paid some people paid at the border, some people were paid to make cars available, and some people were paid to look the other way at the borders throughout until at Tanzania. I am happy to say Interpol, with its 195 member countries, has good and functional relationships regulated by the law. And the law says when South Africa is looking for a fugitive in other parts of the world, member countries will comply. In the same breath, when the Israeli mafia head is wanted in Israel and is known to be here, and the two bureaus, your Tel Aviv National Central Bureau and South African National Central Bureau, are able to communicate, identify where the particular person is, they must apprehend the gentleman, as South Africa did, and hand him back to Israel through all the other channels, inclusive of the diplomatic relationships and channels.
I think there's something to be said about the fact that this is a high-profile case, in that you do have someone like a Dr. Nandi Pamakutumana, who was quite popular in South Africa, Thabo Bester, who certainly has gotten us our tongues wagging for a very long time, even prior to what we've seen now with him running out of the country. Let's talk a little bit about whether or not we run the risk of seeing similar cases that perhaps are not as high-profile.
Naledi, escape from prison happens all over the world. It even happened at one of the best jails in the world, Alcatraz, whilst it was still functioning. There's even a movie called Escape from Alcatraz. What is worrying is when it happens, it suggests that there's a weakness, systemic and systematic weakness. Systemic meaning, why is it that your eyes in the sky, your cameras, your bands on the suspects or the convicts' foot, your digital device, were not able to trigger that this particular person is leaving jail cell A and is on the run, is on the outside. So long story short, Naledi, you and the country know that I am a fan and a firm believer of using digital security, amongst other things, to ensure that you stem the tide of these cases happening. I am sure when people would have bracelets, digital bracelets, showing up, it would indicate when particular person is in the wrong space, is in the wrong jail, is in the wrong part of the administration. Remember the case of a convicted criminal killing a prison warder, having it wandered from the cells to the administration block. So if in the event of that nature, just like in Thabo Bester's case, we would be able to identify early, your early warning systems would kick into place. In the future, we must use technology to stop this from happening.
Yeah, so we've been having this conversation on Twitter with our viewers as well, really wanting to hear your thoughts on the developments around the arrest of Thabo Bester in Arusha in Tanzania. We're hearing today that South African authorities, law enforcement authorities, have arrived in Tanzania as well. We're speaking to former ambassador of Interpol SA, Mr. Andy Mashaile, talking to us about what the relationships would have looked like between the various law enforcement authorities to lead to this arrest. But we asked you what your thoughts are on the story as it develops, so taking your tweets at the agenda_SABC. Let's see one of those tweets. Another one a tweet from Sfiso Madlala that says, "Morning team, just underline 2 words, a rapist and a murderer. Authorities who are involved in assisting his escape must face the music. Such caliber of people like Bester deserve to rot in jail." Let's take more tweets. Shadrach says, "This man will have to sing. There are so many unanswered questions as to who aided him throughout his journey to escape prison. Job well done to all security agencies for a spending job and saving our country from global embarrassment." Sizwe Radebe says, "Thabo Bester and all the corrupt officials who had a hand in his escape must be sent to jail. As for Dr. Nandipa, unless proven otherwise, the only crime she has committed is to be in love with a criminal." Yeah, and we'll take more tweets at the agenda_SABC. I think that Mashaile, what we can agree on, though, is that the common theme throughout some of those tweets is the questions around who the authorities are that may have been involved and how we hold them accountable. The likelihood that we're going to get those answers, in your view?
Yes, we must arrest those who have been dismissed by the department. We have heard that the department conducted some internal disciplinary processes. I think, and I want to see the department, correctional services, law enforcement agencies, all investigative units, going hunting down those who made it possible. Arrest them as a deterrent. We know that it might happen in the near future. But when we have arrested, prosecuted, convicted them, find them guilty and convicted them, and send them to the very same jail where Thabo Bester escaped as a result of them aiding and abetting a convicted criminal. It is my view that we have a responsibility to make sure that where human nature, where the human eye is weakened, like I spoke of systematic weaknesses, meaning the people behind the system, not the system itself, where the human being fails, we have an obligation to use technology. We will be using in the near future artificial intelligence that would be able to know when a jail cell is being opened, when a key is being activated. These are things that we need to look at in the next 10 years. By 2030, many of the jails in the world would be using artificial intelligence to manage the system. And it is also important that machine learning be introduced in the systemic nature of our system, so that we can tell how many times has Thabo Bester gone to the loo, how many times has he taken a smoke break, how many times has he eaten, how many steps has he taken to the left and to the right. When you have that kind of data, you are able to analyze that data and use it for predictive analytics to know what this particular person's intention would be from the data that is at your disposal.
And unfortunately, we're not there yet. We've got the AI to answer all of those questions. So the trick is going to be to figure out the human element that you've talked about there. Mr. Mashaile, thank you so much for your time.